Okay, just gonna try to do a little bit of video of me doing some jeweler sawing here. This is the name I'm sawing out. The way I laid it out, I ended up backwards on the paper, but that's fine. I do my designs about 200% size, and then blow them up 200%, then shrink them back down. I'm using a 5/0 blade and lubricating with a Brazil nut, which is really quite a good thing to use, it turns out. Basically, as I'm sawing, I'm just trying to get the blade to go up straight as I can. Yes, straight up and down, and then mostly moving the work to meet the blade. My bench pin is made out of steel, which will eat a blade if you get over into it, so it's not as good for itty bitty tiny stuff. So I like being able to turn and move my workpiece like this that readily. So I'm willing to deal with the metal. I saw with it pretty high up in my face, so I can blow off the sawdust as I encounter it, or occasionally wipe it off a little if I need to. As I'm sawing, I'm going to kind of often leave little spaces like this corner like this. I'll nip that out, and then if I come back in later, if I break a blade, when I break a blade, I can come back in later and put it back in those same holes and save threading it all the way back through the whole piece. And trying to keep it as I go to where there's always some bench pin to support the little odd loose ends that are sticking down. Before I saw out the outside of the word, I'm always going to try to pierce and go in and cut out the insides of the O's, insides of the D's, just to get that done while I have full support from the sheet. Another thing I do, from the way my brother taught me to do this too, is I cut my bulk metal down to about 3 inch by 3 inch size usually, and then I'll leave the outside intact, to where when I go in and saw anything out, I'll pierce the hole on the inside to saw out to get to it, and then that leaves the outside frame of the square intact, easier to turn and move and manipulate as I go. So again, I'll whack off that little tab after I get out of here, and that way I'll have a access hole to easily get into. If I'm doing a really long, complicated piece of scroll work, I'll often like just spin out and make a little extra hole sometimes too, just especially after I get done with a long, intricate piece. And I can come back and get a little more of that E off there. And when I'm done, I can come back in with a little tiny file and clean up some too. I'm trying to mostly keep the saw as straight up and down as I can, and mostly keep it in almost the same position on the bench pin while I move the work to meet the saw blade. And then, like often on sharp corners like that, I'll just go ahead and turn out. The jeweler saw can turn in almost in the width of its own cut of the saw cut, but that makes a good way to make a really sharp corner and to leave an excess hole for later. So. And there again, I'll whack that little piece off there. And try to keep the blade in motion as it's turning, and that'll give it the ability the teeth can cut out enough room to make it turn. And above and beyond making room for a blade to get back in, those little excesses like the inside of the E would have been can get bumped down and get tangled up or get bumped up and snag your finger. So I kind of like getting rid of them anyway. I also, when I'm getting ready to do a whole word like this, I usually try to figure out where the more complicated cutting is going to be, going around T's and different things, and try to not save that for the very end. If you save it for the very end, it can be hard to support the work as you're turning it. So when I cut the access hole for this name, I actually deliberately cut it. It's just after the bottom of the D and the bottom of the O, which are kind of the simplest shapes of the whole piece here nearly. And one thing to watch also is when you're coming out of the end of the cut, make sure you have something to stop it before the blade hits your fingers, because they will slice fingers pretty well too. But that's the way I saw out stuff. Thank you.